But then we go into the rescuing part.
Am I being hero enough?
That's an interesting question. I haven't heard it before.
I see a lot of grounding. How did that come about?
Years of looking in the mirror. Superman is not a Superman if he doesn't take care of himself.
What propelled the transition? Hello, and I am so glad to be back here. This is one of the sessions that I was waiting for. It is the end of the year, and right, almost at the eve of the new year, and I am so glad that I have an amazing guest, someone who have I have been inspired with, followed for such a long time on LinkedIn and otherwise, and I heard a great deal of good things about her. And so before any further waiting, let me just get my amazing guest on stage now. Hello, Magda. We have applause for you.
Hello, Adnan. How are you?
I am very well. How are you?
I'm very well. Thank you so much. Thank you for this opportunity to have a discussion, as you said, at the end of the year and get us into a right mood to welcome 2026.
Yes. And I mean, how do you feel when the year ends and the year restarts, so to say?
Hmm. It's an interesting question. I've been making a lot of reflections and even writing about it, posted about it, that we wait till the end of the year to do our gratitude list, to set goals for the next year. But actually, this can be done at any point during
Yeah.
the year. So I usually advise my clients, make your gratitude list weekly. And then when you start adding it up, at the end of the year, you have a huge list of achievements and perhaps some goals that you would like to carry to the new year. Because it's not only that we're having old goals that we have achieved, but also how can we evolve? How can we continue building on the goals that we have already maybe partially achieved or we would like to expand?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I remember when I was, I was way back in my career. Went to this company, and you have to prepare your yearly things, right? And I don't know if someone told me or not, but I realized that I can't remember everything that I did. So first year, my performance appraisal was flat because I was a new employee. But second year, what I did was I opened up a Word document and I started to write everything that I did, every month or every quarter. So by the end of the year, I had quite a bit of treasure, so to say, to talk about. And I think it's very important because a lot of people just think that we will reflect back when it ends. But does it really end?
It's interesting how you've linked it to organizational cycle, the yearly appraisals or the yearly reviews. And this is where we get lost because you mentioned your own example. I couldn't remember what I've done. And it's a normal human thing that we don't store everything in our memory. Our capacity is limited. So here, perhaps we can start bringing the hero narrative. How can I be kinder on myself and make sure that I record everything as I move along instead of leaving it to the last minute and then stressed and struggle, instead of making it an enjoyable process? And you ask a question about does it need to be year end? How about, again, we do some reframing and we say that this is a continuous evolution,
Yeah.
something that we look forward to because there's something exciting. We keep building, we keep adding, we keep upgrading, we keep removing. So I see it in this perspective. My mind is always trying to see a different way to what the mainstream reality is.
Yeah. At this year end obsession, so to say, with goals and trying to turn a new leaf, has it has it in your experience for you or for your clients, has it worked really? Because I don't see that with my own self.
I would say I started questioning it a few years back when I started digging deep into the coaching modalities. You know, how our brain operates, when do we stress, what do we find more enjoyable. So I would like for me and for others to enjoy, to thrive, and not just survive. So there are ways how we can minimize the stress, how we can minimize, you know, some of the unnecessary activities that we generate for whatever purpose that have no added value. So for me, it's all about thriving, not surviving. It's about embracing that our capacity as humans is limited. So how do I allocate my energy, my time, my resources in a way that is gonna benefit me, but also is gonna benefit others?
Yeah. And you previously mentioned about the hero part, right? I know there's a big theme of this thing in your book, and we're going to talk about some of that. But is 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 that, does it have to do something with this, again, overselling of being a hero, so to say, that we say, well, when we're auditing, I think we're being really hard on ourselves. I mean, I think the back question at the back end, and I was in a coaching conversation a few days ago, and my client was also being very hard on himself. And I think the conversation that was happening at the back of the head was, maybe, um, am I being hero enough, so to say, right?
Mm,
And I think that's one of the themes of your book as well, and your podcast, From Hero to Human, right?
mm.
So
It's a big question, you know. I can talk about the hero narrative for ages, but original concept of the hero is, I come from healthcare. So I've been in nursing for over 20 years. A couple of years ago, I left the hospital setting and I transitioned into coaching, mentoring, training, facilitation space. In healthcare, the hero narrative is very deeply embedded. And if you look at the negative sides, if you continue calling people heroes and you expect them to be available 24/7, they keep giving. In healthcare, majority of people, they want to help others, so they put the other um, as a priority and not forgetting often about themselves. So what happens then? We start cultivating the toxic resilience concept, which is the outdated definition, I would say. We now need to look at a healthy definition of resilience, which means,
I love the
yes,
term toxic resilience.
healthy resilience means in the process of, yes, having some struggles, having some hardships, I still make sure that I take care of myself. The more I take care of myself, the more I can deal with any obstacles or any challenges that are coming my way. And you know, the whole world is now talking about mental health epidemic, loneliness crisis, well-being crisis. We all know what is going on in the world. You see, whenever you open your social media, Instagram or LinkedIn, refill your battery or pour into your own cup. Well-being is not selfish. We need to understand it on a really deep concept. What does it mean? Even organizational, you know, behavior, people who are able to pause, who are able to reset, who are able to really connect to the values, they are more productive because they understand why they are in these roles, why sometimes it will be hard, sometimes there will be stress, sometimes there will be demands that often they think is exceeding the capacity. But the
Mm.
more you understand that you are a human, not a hero, so this is the original concept. And then when I started the podcast, every guest brought a different perspective of a hero. So I started getting challenged because hero is doesn't only have a negative meaning, the one that I talk initially about. Hero is also a positive one. So how can I be that positive hero
Yeah.
that continues pouring for others, and at the same time I continue pouring for myself? And in healthcare, again, this is a beautiful concept because myself as a nurse, if my well-being level is good mentally, physically, spiritually, psychologically, who is going to benefit? My patient,
Yeah.
my team, the community, everyone who is coming in contact with me. That's why I'm so passionate for people to understand the hero narrative and all the nuances, because there isn't just black and white, this is good or this is bad. The hero concept has a different meaning for every single individual that I meet.
Yeah, that's deep. Because I mean, from another perspective, I think there's this deep-rooted thought process within us that we to be someone to be called a hero to save the day, you need to sacrifice yourself, and that's what a hero is, right? If you look at movies, if you look at all those folklores, those big narratives, it's always like he sacrificed himself. And as a woman, I know that this is a lot of expectation from women all over the world. It's not a particular part of the world. Plus, being a nurse, again, being in the healthcare profession. So, how are the demands like for you?
You are going deeper and deeper, and this is a really, really
I
meaningful.
warned you.
Oh, I enjoy it so much because I study it. I look at the recent data, at statistics. What is the science saying? So, if I want to relate it, see, I always embrace the challenges in a different way. You know how the book came to life? I had a conversation 3 years ago with another coach that I have met at an event. His name is Binot, and I gave him credit for this on many occasions. He just asked me that question, Magda, where is your resilience coming from? And he got me thinking. Until today, I keep having that reflection. Where is my resilience coming from? So you start looking at your life in retrospect.
That's a
I
deep
was
question.
thinking, I come from Poland. There is a lot of conflicts historically in the background. Polish people went through the concentration camps. We had another genocide going on back many decades in the history. Jewish people, Polish people, we were all oppressed by certain nations. It could be this, it could be that the females in my family were always really, really strong. So I had examples of Polish women who were really speaking boldly, who were standing up for whatever they thought it was right. So I had some examples in my
So,
life.
generational resilience, so to say.
Yes, I think it was intrinsic resilience for some reason. I really believe it is historical. It comes through generations because I learned the history of my family and there was a lot of resilience. I remember my grandparents. I still have very fond memories how I used to spend time with them. They were in their late 80s. Both of them survived First and Second World War. And the resilience in them, I would say they were simple people, but simple in a beautiful meaning. High level of emotional intelligence, no anger or bitterness, whatever happened in their life. And they lost, of course, relatives, families in the war, and a lot of horrible things happened. But how they carried themselves through life, how they were these beautiful, warm, kind, empathetic human beings, I think this is something that I definitely was inspired. So it was grandparents, my grandfather as well. He was one of the very positive characters in my upbringing. Again, when I look back, probably the highest level of emotional intelligence. Someone who has suffered a lot of hardship in his life, but his soul was always pure and it was always kind and it was always taking care of someone else. So I think this is also resilience, right? To not to be broken by the bad experiences, but to make a meaning of it and then produce something meaningful for others as well.
Yeah, yeah. So, how did that shape you as the person you became later on?
This year I received a lot of feedback without asking. Some people said to me that, actually, a few people recently said that they didn't know me before, but when they got to know me, they said that I am kind. And this is not something that I would have considered calling myself. I was always confident, resilient, strong, bold, But the kind is not, it was not something that I would put that label on myself. So you can be both. You can be strong and kind. There isn't one or the other. So it got me really thinking, how my life experiences and the people that I met shaped the person that I am now. And again, going into healthcare 2 decades ago, of course, I wanted to help people. I was not one of these people who go into nursing because it's an easy job and you can, get a job. It doesn't matter which country in the world you're gonna live in. I had this idealistic expectation that we are there to help others, and having the experience of spending time with my elderly grandparents, I kind of thought is gonna be a similar type of vocation.
And how was it then?
I don't know if you have enough time. At the
Oh,
beginning,
yeah.
of start something new is a sense of novelty. So you are excited, and you kind of idealize things. We romanticize almost. Same
Hmm.
from coaching. We think everything is amazing, and all of a sudden we're gonna be helping everyone, and the world is gonna be a bit better place every day because we are these heroes that now can save the planet. And then, of course, challenges happen. But the key is in how do we deal with these challenges? Do we get defeated? Do we get bitter? Do we get angry? And I honestly say that at some point when I saw healthcare professionals burning out in their careers, becoming really bitter, some leaving the profession, and at the same time, the healthcare organizations not having capacity to help people in these conditions, it made me angry. I had time in my life when I was angry and frustrated because I didn't go into healthcare to be put in these conditions that when someone is struggling, there isn't a system or there isn't a process in organization to help that person. Instead, they can be labeled or judged or say they're poor performer or they don't care. But people don't go into healthcare because they don't care. Something
Yeah.
happened along the way.
Okay. And so you mentioned anger and you mentioned frustration.
Mhm.
What was your point when you stopped being a hero?
Big question. During the pandemic, I was already in Dubai, so I moved from the UK after working 15 years in the NHS. Just when the pandemic started, I was asked to be in charge of one of the COVID field hospitals that was established in one of the hotels. At that point, I was still a hero. 200% productivity, I have to hit all the KPIs, the scorecard needs to be on green, we just do without stopping. The minute we arrived at this hotel, it was, I remember, first day, a handful of nurses, they gave us box of medications. We didn't have any protocols because pandemic, no one knew what was gonna happen. So we have to create everything from scratch. And something, I don't know, this voice inside told me that it needs to be a different type of leadership. And I made a conscious decision, and I say this till today. I decided we're gonna thrive, not survive. And people laugh. How can you thrive in the COVID pandemic
That was a
when
tough
you are
one.
in the middle of the most complex, the most unpredictable, the most scary situation you've never been before? And it was the coaching mindset. I think at that point I was already studying coaching. I think I've completed by then a level 1. I was doing NLP. I decided during pandemic also to do MBA in healthcare management because I didn't want to waste my time or read the news and get depressed by everything that was going on in the world. So I think at
Yeah.
that point in that hotel, I found the concept of psychological safety, human-oriented leadership, and I've implemented a lot of different leadership practices, something that I would never ever consider before.
Yeah. But let me go back to that moment for a
Mhm,
teeny weeny bit. And
mhm.
so I want to understand what was really going on inside of you when you said, I'm not going to be a hero from now. I'm going to throw away the cape,
Mhm.
right? So to say. And I'm
Mhm.
going to be human and I'm going to look at it from this perspective that I need to also take care of myself.
Mm.
That's the shift that I'm maybe I'm wording it right or not, but
Mhm.
that's what I'm hearing right now.
Mhm. Mhm. You know what I noticed early on? That people were scared. So the nurses were scared. They didn't want to go home after the shift because they didn't want to bring the virus to their family, to the children or husband.
Yeah.
They were reading the news, and there were so many fake news also. What can happen if you get COVID? So, it was like almost like a frenzy. You go there and you have the crazy news, and people are scared and this and that. And I was thinking, they don't need a hero leader at that point. They need someone who is like them.
Yes.
So I was always a leader that used to be on the floor. So I am known for going around the hospital, talking to people, connecting. This is how I was getting my information, how I was showing that I care. So obviously I did that in that hotel, and we had 4 floors, two nursing stations on each floor, 75 patients on each floor, so full capacity 350 patients, single rooms.
Wow.
Some of them were double. And I remember at that point, Dubai was in full lockdown. So you couldn't go travel unless, I had to go to facility. I had a special letter so I can go and travel. I asked my husband at one point to bake cupcakes. I decorated these cupcakes in really colorful theme with sprinkles, with colorful sparkles. And one day I took these cupcakes to that hotel on one shift. And I went to each station and I delivered to nurses these cupcakes. We sat down, we were talking just about life, not about work, not about COVID. And I made it a practice that every week or every couple of weeks, I will bring a batch of cupcakes. I would go around the whole facility. We will sit down and we will have a conversation. And someone labeled it a cupcake leadership. I was on another podcast, I think 3 years ago, when I told this gentleman about this practice. He then said, this is a cupcake leadership. And actually, it is a unique way of how you connect with people. So we sit down, we have something to eat, and we talk about life. Because at work, majority of the time, what do we talk about? We talk about work.
Yeah.
If you are in the most stressful, unpredictable situation, you don't want to talk about work. You want
Yeah.
something to take your mind off.
Yes.
So that was my probably most human moment. And I started building more and adding more. And yeah, and since that was the turning point. That was
Yeah.
the turning.
And so, okay, I understand that this was that pivoting moment. But when you, so I have this, I won't say obsession. I don't know why that word is coming to me. I'll investigate it right. But I have this big discomfort with the idea of sacrifice, so to say, right? Because I feel that the way we look at sacrifice is a lot of what you call the hero phenomenon, where
Mhm.
there's it's forced, and I have to do it because there's no other choice. Um, but it's again going back to your Polish roots and your gender also. Um, it must have been a lot of struggle because I understand that in the moment, and then you are looking at those things, and you are doing those things, and your moment of being a human starts to arrive. But the internal shift and internal change, that must have been quite a heavy load to carry.
See, I will disagree here. I really like what you said about the sacrifice, and we need to look at definitions and cultural perceptions of sacrifice. I talk a lot about cultural intelligence. And when I worked in Kuwait for a couple of years. I did a big coaching program for nurses on mental agility and emotional intelligence. I started receiving feedback from the Muslim nurses around how they can accept my coaching, because Quran also talks about emotional intelligence, how to manage anger. What is the meaning of resilience? What is the meaning of hardship? So if they don't see hardship as something wrong or something that is forced, rather to be embraced and learn a lesson from it, this is how we connect. So every individual has a different perception of what is resilience, what is hardship. That's why I always start with definitions. What resilience means to you? What emotional intelligence means to you? What strength means to you? The minute you understand, only then we can have a conversation. Of course, we understand each other because we have a very similar, I think, take on many issues. You followed me, I follow you, and we have exchanges, intellectual exchanges. So it's a really interesting question. When you say a heavy load, even if it was heavy, I think I carried it well, because I always try to look what is the learning? What is the learning? Otherwise, if there is no learning, I would feel that I wasted my time and I suffer for no reason. But how can I make a meaning in this suffering? And again, some people would say, Magda, how can you say that suffering is meaningful? Well, it is. Even if I go back and look at the history of, again, Polish nation, you know, a lot of people in the concentration camps, they found meaning in the suffering. Some of them were serving others. They were doctors, they were nurses, they were librarians, they were teachers. I know this is an extreme example, and not every individual can, in an extreme situation, find that meaning, but some people can. And for me, this is fascinating, how it's not about saying that negative situation is positive. Absolutely not. It's not about reframing and saying, okay, there is a lesson. It's about admitting, okay, yes, it is heavy at the beginning, but how can I see a different perspective? So
Yeah.
if you tell me it's heavy, I wouldn't say so. I enjoyed it. And if you read my book, I think you will see the enjoyment in learning from every single conversation, even the most challenging feedback that I got from my superiors. I exited the room and I said, no, I need to find why. I need to find out why we are not agreeing, or we cannot find a common language. And it was the language. In that particular example, I used NLP, and it was the language. I was using a language that the other person was seeing as offensive.
Yeah.
Again, the curiosity. I think the curiosity helps me see a different perspective and see opportunity even in a situation that might initially feel heavy or might feel like a burden. Does it make
But
sense?
oh yes, thank you for this. I'm just wondering, because there's a lot of burnout in the industry that we work in. I think it's not just, I mean, in the work that you do in healthcare, I think it's phenomenally high. But even in the corporate jobs, and you live and work in one of the biggest corporate cities in the world, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure you encounter way more burnouts than most people see other people doing so. Also as a coach, but uh, how did you change your burnout into something that became a source of thriving? And I'm not using the word surviving on purpose.
Mm-hmm.
I'm because I know that there was surviving, and that surviving led to burnout. So
Mm-hmm.
there's an arc that goes like this and this goes. So I want to understand this part of the journey.
Yes. So again, a big question and a deep question. And let's start with definition. Not many people are aware that the definition of burnout has evolved, especially recently. Initially, it was the WHO classification on ICD-11. It's an occupational phenomenon. Then we also need to be aware that burnout can happen when you become detached from the meaning or the misaligned. So you no longer identify yourself with your mission, with your values, and all of a sudden you are working in a job and you don't see a meaning. So let's say you enter the healthcare profession, you want to help patients, something happened and you lost it. You lost yourself. You don't know where you are. You don't know why you are there. You start blaming everyone. There comes the victim narrative, the drama triangle, another favorite concept of mine. And you start blaming the world instead of looking internally. So understanding the definition and understanding the root cause. Where is this burnout coming from? Is it because I'm lost? I am not attached anymore. I'm not attached to my values. Sometimes we outgrown the position. Sometimes we outgrown the organization. So we really need to get clear how we got to that and what is actually happening. The minute we understand, the minute we can start analyzing and coming up with solutions. You know, I always say, I give this example from healthcare. Back in my work in Kuwait, we used to have something called safety huddles. So every day at around midday, senior nursing team, educators, the supervisors, they will come to a huddle and I will ask a question. So how are you? And they will say, I'm busy, I'm stressed, I'm busy, I'm stressed. At some point, I started getting again angry and frustrated because I was hearing the same two words without any more explanation. The same happened when I used to go to the units and do my rounds. How are you? Oh, I'm busy. And they will run off, and that's the end of the conversation. Why I was frustrated, I can clearly see that they need help, but they're not verbalizing. So I don't have a crystal ball. They need to tell me what is happening, otherwise I cannot help them. Imagine as a leader, I also feel frustrated. I want to help them, but they need to verbalize what is going on in that moment. So I started using curiosity and questioning. So I said, so tell me the definition of busy. You know, in that particular moment, there were probably 10 to 12 people in that room, and they all went silent, and everyone is looking at each other, hoping that someone is gonna give an answer. And in my coaching practice, I learned to be really comfortable with the silence. You know, even if the training room or coaching room goes silence for 5 minutes, I will just embrace it and let them embrace it as well. Of course, it was more comfortable for me than it was comfortable for them. However, we need to learn. So I said, no problem. I'm not looking for dictionary definition. Give me your definition of busy. After a while, they started coming with the definitions. So, okay, now we have a definition. So how can we reframe or rephrase that busy in a way that our brain understands what is going on? The minute the brain has clarity, it's going to start looking for solution. It will make a plan and you will complete the task.
Yeah.
So nurses being smart and creative and flexible, okay, I am at full capacity. Okay, fair enough. You have full capacity of patients, you cannot take it. I am fully optimized. Yeah, much better. I have priorities. So I have priorities 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have a list. So if something is going on, what do you need to do to let others know that you are struggling or you need help? Okay, so the conversation started flowing differently. When I used to come to the units or they used to come to the huddle, they started saying, okay, I have 2 incidences this morning with the medication, 1 patient complained, and we are short of 1 nurse. Okay, that's fair enough. Now I can help you. I can move the stuff around. I can help you with the complaint. I don't talk to a patient, I can help you with the incident report. No problem. This is how you're gonna get help. Again, behavioral change. It doesn't happen in 1 day or even in 1 week. But they were really committed because they saw that, it's a different kind of conversation. They were also curious, what is gonna be the end result? The minute they saw that we can actually start thriving, even if we have full capacity, even if we don't have enough resources, even if a mistake happened or a patient shouted or a doctor is not happy, we can still do something about it collectively, find a lesson, find a solution how to prevent it in the future or minimize the occurrence in the future and thrive. And when we look at definition of thriving, when people thrive, when they're learning something new, when they are working collectively as a team, when they feel that they deliver a positive change, either to a patient or to a colleague, this is where we thrive. When we feel that we give something, it's not about taking, it's about giving to others. So it was a very, very big learning situation for me in my coaching journey. Of course, then building a program on mental agility, solutions, the whole framework, I needed to understand bit by bit, individual by individual. They giving me feedback, including cultural, religious, societal. I needed to really understand the 360, how different human beings process stress,
Yeah.
how they process burnout, how they process even not having the vocabulary, because one of the whole chapters in the book is about having a well-being vocabulary. If you want to thrive, you need to start upgrading the way that you talk.
Yeah. Yeah. And most people are like, there's a term that I use in my emotional intelligence trainings. There's something called dumb and numb, right? And most people I find are, we feel a lot of intensity of emotions, but
Mhm,
when it comes to vocabulary, we're pretty dumb there. Dumb as in
mhm,
deaf and dumb, right? We're not
mhm,
able to really articulate what we're really going through.
mhm.
And is that one of the reasons for burnout? Maybe.
Suppressing the emotions, definitely. What if you feel stressed and angry and frustrated at work every day, but you decide to keep quiet?
Yeah.
At some point, it's not a direct result that burnout is going to be a direct result, but you will start disliking what you do. You will start anticipating that every day is gonna be short of staff, no one is gonna help me, we're gonna be busy and it's gonna be stressed, and I won't have time to eat lunch, I won't have time to talk to my colleagues, and when I'm gonna get home I am so out of energy that the only thing I want to do is lie on the bed and go to sleep.
Yeah.
We need to look how the cycle happens, and the cycles are almost universal. We say that burnout is unique, but what happens when you start losing uh, the meaning or the sight of the meaning, why you are doing what you are doing, why you in this profession? Yeah, there are signs, and there are signs, but we are good at dismissing the signs. We are good at dismissing the feelings, because how easy it is to say, well, I feel angry because the patient spoke to me this way. This is not the language that we are normally using in organizations, right? Even when I coach executives, they tell me, Magda, I cannot say that I am stressed because
Yeah.
no one around me speaks this language. It's okay. Can you express yourself in a different way? You don't have to use these, I would say, hot words that are gonna bring a lot of attention to you. But how can you start having a conversation so people realize that you are at capacity and you need help?
Yeah. Yeah. But it is difficult, especially as you go further high up in the ladder to actually. I think it's not about the usage of the words only, right? It's also about being human enough, so to
Mm,
say, to actually ask for help.
mm,
Yeah. Because again, we have this, and I've seen this both in men, but also women leaders. I've worked with a lot of women leaders, and uh, especially women leaders are more. I mean, my anecdotal evidence is that they are very not open, so to say, to actually seek help from their colleagues, their subordinates, or the entire support system. And I don't know, is it's not the cultural thing. It's more ingrained, and I think that has to do more with the hero part as well.
mm. It can be many different reasons, but there is something called masculine and feminine leadership, something that I train, I talk about, I research it a lot. And actually, I found out a couple of years back, I was in the masculine space when I was leading. So it's not only the hero, but also I was following, I would say, the stronger, the more masculine example, not exercising empathy enough for sure, not acknowledging my own humanity, sitting with a very strong analytical, I need to deliver uh, what is being asked from me. I need to be always available. I need to. But
Mm,
then for the best type of leadership, you need to have a balance, masculine and feminine. And it's
mm,
not that have masculine and women have feminine. Every
yeah,
gender
good.
has combination of both. The more you become aware where you sit and where is the opportunity. How do you need to upgrade yourself? And awareness. Someone gave me feedback, and I've realized, that's why in the past people used to label me, she's the scary one. I had a lot of labels working back in the NHS in the UK. Of course, it's not good to label people, and I didn't want to hear. If someone didn't want to have a conversation or ask me a question, then you are in no position to attach a label. But again, it's a type of awareness, really hard awareness to swallow when someone is labeling. But if you are able to be vulnerable and look in that mirror and try to dig deeper why they might be seeing me this way, I've learned a lot by receiving feedback, whether it was intentional or unintentional, whether it was kind or whether it was unkind. Most of the time, I was able to pause and look deeper. Sometimes it was not in that direct moment. The feedback came back to me even months or years later, but the lesson moved me forward really fast.
Yeah, when it got to you ultimately.
Mm,
Uh, so you use the word scary, and right at the start of the conversation, you were talking about people calling you kind, right? And you being sort of like, um, that's not a word that you typically heard for yourself.
mm-hmm,
So from scary to being kind,
mm-hmm,
what was really happening inside for this to happen? And both are people's words, right?
mm. So it's the 20 years, I think it's the 20 years, the beginning of the career in the healthcare space up till now. I say I learn through every single interaction. So every single person, even the conversation we are having today, there will be a lot of reflection after that. You're asking me a lot of questions that no one asked me before, or you're asking it in a way that gives me a different or a fresh perspective on the topics that I have discussed before. So it's
Right?
going from scary to kind. It doesn't happen overnight, right? Again, it's a process. So when we talk about transformation, but again, I'm sure there was a conscious decision to start moving towards the kind approach instead towards the scary approach. But if you look at leadership theories, historically, it used to be one-man show. I'm going to tell you what to do, and you don't ask me any questions. And there is still a lot of dictatorship or authoritarian type leadership organizations when you don't ask questions. And again, I talk about it openly in my book on forums, courses, conferences. Did a case study. I remember I employed two educators who came from a specific culture. They were highly educated. Obviously, I regarded them as a subject matter expert in their field. I was not expected that they're gonna asking me for opinion. I will ask them how to improve things in our organization. But the minute they joined, they started sending the most ridiculous emails asking me to approve the PowerPoint presentation for a training course. And I started becoming angry and frustrated. I'm like, what is this? But then curiosity also came. And we had really honest and really uncomfortable conversation. And I asked them, so guys, please tell me, where are you coming from? Why is this happening? They came from a country and an organization that told them what to do. females are of a lesser value than males, and the supervisor was male, and they told them, you're gonna do this, and they were never asked, can you tell me your opinion? Is this gonna work? Can you give me some feedback? And then all of a sudden, they see a person from a Western culture that is asking them, so what do you think? And they freeze. It was a full freeze situation. But for me, I come from Western world, so this is a normal conversation. I say, Adnan, okay, give me your feedback on my performance, or give me your feedback on this training course, and you will tell me.
Yeah.
With them,
And
I
vice versa.
teach them from scratch that it is okay to talk to me, even though I come from a different world. It is okay to be honest. It is okay to say more than yes, mom, no, mom.
Yeah.
But I really enjoyed this project because they really got to exercise their voice. They really got to show their intelligence, their capacity, and they then they started teaching others. This is how I introduced a coaching education program in the nursing department. First, empowering the nurse leaders and the educators, and then they were doing the same with the new joiners, with junior nurses, and with everyone else.
Yeah. So this is a powerful example of how leadership has been typically, a single kind of stream, so to say. And I was also reflecting on how you talked about, the masculine energy that you brought into leadership. And I'm just curious, uh, how has that shifted for you over the years, in the last few years before you actually left the healthcare industry? How did that shift for you?
When I became aware about the concept of feminine masculine, of course, I did an audit. It was very clear that the masculine was not only in leadership, but it was also in personal life. So even when you reflect on a relationship, if a wife is more in masculine, then what happens to the husband? If she is making all the decision and she doesn't need any help? But traditionally, the husband should take care of the wife, not wife does everything, and then the husband is left with what? So you really need to understand the dynamics, how this
Yeah.
masculine can put you in trouble.
Yeah.
On the other hand, it is also useful because there are situations in life when you need to exercise the masculine. So the strategic decision making, being really confident and getting on with task is there for a reason. But then how can I have a good balance of the masculine and feminine, and then transitioning, obviously working for myself, building new relationships, networking, showcasing my um, talents, my expertise. I don't want to show in a way that I am a dictator, right? So this is Magda, mental agility expert, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. She knows everything, and everyone is gonna come and listen. No. How do I build a relationship? How do I show that vulnerability? How do I ask a question instead of just making a judgment? So, again, it's a process of learning, unlearning, and process of looking into the mirror. And I often bring actual mirror in the coaching sessions. I did that in healthcare when people were sat in the victim reality. They were saying that everyone else is guilty. When I put the mirror in front of them, then all of a sudden the perspective shifts. But looking into the mirror is one of the most difficult thing for a human being because we don't want to see that we might be the problem.
Yeah. And literally, I mean, I was in a session, coaching session, and I happened to talk about the mirror, right? And the client, figuratively, but through her words, she shuddered because she said, "I don't want to look at the mirror." And I realized that looking at the mirror, and for all of us, right? When we look, whenever, even when we go out to the washroom in the morning, we're looking at, oh, there's this thing that's coming up, it's cropping up here, and I don't like the way my nose is. That's how it happens. And even more so when you are doing a coaching conversation. Uh, so when you do all of this, and there's a lot of work that you do and a lot of growth and transformation. But my favorite question: who is Magda beyond all these things?
Magda is a human being. This is how I introduce myself, whether I'm at a conference or I do a training session. I said that I'm a human being that is fascinated with studying the complexity of human behavior. So I am a forever student of my own life. I am someone who moved from hero to human, or is still on a journey to finding more human qualities and how I can be more and do less. This is my ultimate goal in life. Luckily, I achieved it still early, so I haven't reached my 80s or 90s when I realized that life is for living and we should also be, and so how to be present in the moment. And Magda is also someone who likes nature and animals. So last year, I adopted a dog. My husband and myself, we adopted a dog. And this dog really helped us with being present in the moment. You know, when you observe animals, they live according to a natural cycle. To wake up with the sun, to go and enjoy, to sit in silence and enjoy the moment and not to think about the past or not to think about the future, because you get depressed when you start thinking about the past and you get anxious when you start or forever analyzing what might go wrong in the future. So yeah, he really helps us to be grounded. And
Yeah,
even when I go for my walks every day, 3 to 4 times a day, I don't take my phone with me. So I really try to detach myself from the digital space. When I create something online, I create because I feel strongly about it, not because I want to promote something for the purpose of promoting.
mm. I see a lot of grounding. How did that come out?
Years of looking in the mirror.
Yeah, yeah. That must
Years
have been a
of
hard one.
wearing the hero uniform. Yeah.
Yeah,
So the hero uniform, I often joke that is still in my cupboard as a reminder, but it is not something that I would like to wear on a day-to-day basis. And during one of my podcast discussion, one of the guests brought my attention to the fact that when you watch Superman or Spider-Man, they're superheroes. But when they don't take care of their personal life, their performance as a superhero go down. And
yeah,
this is something I never noticed in the movies.
yeah.
So you see, because I was a hero, I was also noticing the hero. I was never seeing a human. And that's an awareness that hit me. And someone had to tell me this during a live podcast discussion that, Superman is not a Superman if he doesn't take care of himself.
That's such a powerful thought, and I'm thinking of all the Superman movies and also the Superwoman series. I mean, beyond Superman, he's also Clark Kent, and that's
Hmm.
the life that he typically relives most of the time. But
Yes.
we tend to focus on the hero part as well. Uh, the, does being a rescuer, you talked about drama triangles. I'm just going back to it. Uh, does being a rescuer resonate more with being a hero, or do we see reflections that in how you humanize yourself?
That's an interesting question. I haven't heard it before. Hmm. See, drama triangle is something that is fascinating because we move between these roles. And at some point in our life, we've all been there. We've been the rescuers, we've been the villains, we've been the persecutors. So for me, the drama triangle characters, they're all human.
Okay.
But whether I associate rescuer with a hero, I would say that's additional character on the drama triangle. Maybe a higher level upgrade.
Okay. Upgrade to hero rescue. I asked because Um, Again, I'm circling back to this notion of sacrifice, right? And so remember we were chatting. I was talking about the book. So the book is called The Myth of Sacrifice, and uh, one of the core themes that I'm constantly struggling with in terms of when I look at all those things is that um, this heroism typically comes with a lot of sacrificial angle, right? And that's a lot to do with, oh, I want to rescue, and I see that theme across
Mm,
uh, in relationships, especially in mother-child relationship, particularly,
mhm,
or in wife-husband relationship, particularly, where the wife is sacrificing herself for her hero, and
mhm,
in that aspect, she is trying to be the hero herself. But
mm,
in healthcare, particularly, if we were to talk about that, uh, isn't that something that we typically over capacity, being burnt out? But we need to rescue our patients. We need to rescue our patients, and it's not just the patients, right? It's also the family around the patients, and trying
mm,
to be more, so to
mm,
say.
mm,
So that's where I was thinking of that rescuer part. And then you talked about one fine day they've lost it, the purpose and everything. And I thought of maybe the persecutor, because I know that the rescuer turns into a persecutor when the victim is not really listening to them. It's not giving them that kick anymore. So
mm,
that's where the question was coming from.
mm. Paradoxically, in healthcare, they teach us to empower the patient, same like in coaching. So you should be asking questions, empowering to make informed decisions. This is the exact concept that we are being taught. We are being taught, do not do everything for your patient. You should empower them to be more independent, to make decisions, um, to make decisions that are best fitting for them. But then we go into the rescuing part. Rescuing, yes, if there is an emergency situation, of course, you're going to put your cape on and you're going to go and rescue that patient. But majority of the situation, it should be more of empowering conversation to make sure that the person can make decisions for themselves and you are not in the rescuer capacity. Yeah, that's really interesting.
Yeah. I see that, or at least that expectation from healthcare professionals,
Mm,
at least in my part of the world, where I mean, even as a coach, right? Because I work a lot with individuals, so to say, and in most coaching conversations, it's like, please rescue us, and I'm not going to rescue you, right? You're capable enough to be rescued. And so I see that, you go to wedding and you find a doctor, and you find someone from healthcare, and they're like, can you help us with this? Can you help us with this? So it's like, if I don't help you, and I see a lot of burnout, because there are a few good friends who are in the medical field, and I see that. So that's where the thought process was coming from.
mm.
So from healthcare to coaching, how's what propelled the transition?
One day, a few years back, I received feedback from my CEO. During a morning huddle, she said, Magda, nursing is not your passion anymore. And that was at the time when I started bringing the coaching leadership practices in the organization. So, just one feedback, which initially I thought, how come this is not true? I always wanted to be a nurse. So, how can someone tell me that nursing is not my passion?
Made you
But
angry?
But then when you are curious enough to understand, you can have more than one passion.
Yeah, yeah,
And obviously, my strength was coaching. I used principles of systemic coaching to close some projects in the organization, and I can do it really quickly, something that people will struggle for months or even for years when you know how to bring individuals to the table so they can find solutions for themselves instead of telling them what to do. I've realized that this is my strength. So one feedback and then a continuous journey of curiosity and looking how can I bring more of these qualities, how can I build something really meaningful that I can make it a full time. I don't want to call it a job. Job for me is a 9 to 5 and it's something negative. How I can make something worthwhile out of the strength and out of the skills that are uniquely me, and something that brings positive effects not only for me but also for those who are working with me.
So, who was Magda when she was a nurse, and who is Magda when she is a coach, and what has really remained constant?
One question, a similar one that people ask me, why did you leave nursing? And actually, I say I didn't leave because when you look at the values between nursing and coaching, it's about holding space, unconditional positive regard, empathy,
Yeah,
non-judgmental attitude are all the same values that I was
ethics,
using.
uh,
Yes.
a patient or client priority.
Hmm.
You know, a lot of the values that as coaches we embody or we're taught that
Yeah.
these are the core of our profession. Yeah,
Yeah. I would say who was Magda as a nurse? Magda was an individual who wanted to help others but didn't quite understand her own journey and how can she best use her skill, her experience, her capacity. And Magda now is someone who is acutely aware. And one of the recent feedbacks also that I received is Magda is someone who uses her language in a very conscious way. So I weigh every word that is coming out of my mouth because I know how it can be misperceived, how it can be seen as something that it is not. So when I communicate, I use a lot of NLP principles. And
yeah.
when I see how people communicate, when I see that they live in a different reality, I ask questions to try to understand their reality.
One of the long-term side effects of NLP, or maybe the actual side effects of NLP is not the main effects, is that over time you start to be very conscious of the language that you use and the words that you choose. Uh, I think that's grounded in a lot of self-awareness, I think, and I see that in your podcast, in the book. I've read excerpts of it and I've ordered it, so it's going to come soon. Uh, and Yeah, so now where you are in your journey,
Now where
who you will
I
be becoming?
It's end of year, as you say, but I'm not making any New Year's resolutions. Actually, I have a lot of goals from this year that are gonna evolve in 2026, and this is really exciting. So I have a program, I have a book, and addition in the new year, my mental agility mastery program is gonna be CPD accredited. So it's a conscious evolution. I really take decisions that are conscious and are gonna strengthen my expertise, are gonna strengthen also the impact that I'm gonna be making by delivering this awareness, by speaking about mental agility, by helping people look in that mirror and helping them upgrade their human skills. Because it's ultimately about acknowledging that we are all humans. With everything that is going on now in the world, we need to look at what we need to upgrade to stop the narrative of the burnout, glorifying a busy as a badge of honor, and really start shifting the narrative. Stop repeating the same messages, the same Instagrammable quotes. We need more awareness. But when you talk to individuals and you ask what is awareness, 90% of people cannot explain what is awareness. So I have, I create a lot of one-liners or formulas that help people move quickly from A to Z. Why? Because our brain likes formulas. So 1,
Yeah.
2, 3, 4, 5 step approach. I have a lot of this depending what I teach or coach. One of the one-liners says, consciousness is no longer optional. So if you want to thrive and you want to make the right decision, you need to be awake. You need to be acutely alert. But when you run in that autopilot all the time, ticking boxes, I need to do, I need to have more, I need to buy more, I need, you're not conscious.
Yeah, you need to be awake, really. Yeah, and I think that's something that's really missing in the world today, and we need more of this. We need more of this. So we're slightly above time, uh, 3-4 minutes, but
Mhm.
the conversation was really interesting. I wanted to go on further, but at a later date, maybe. So Magda, thank you very much for being here. It was a very interesting conversation. I loved every minute of it, and thank you for showing up so beautifully. So and best of luck for the year ahead and with the new courses. And I'll see you inshallah when we meet in person or online. All right. So thank you and goodbye from our side.
Thank you so much, Adnan. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll see you soon. Bye bye.